Getting and keeping A plus talent is probably one of the biggest headaches that I hear when I'm coaching my founder and CEO clients. And it's one of those things that on the surface looks like it could be, market conditions, how much am I able to pay, what kind of jobs out there, what's happening, and like all of those things are factors. But one of the things that's consistently overlooked by the founders that I see that do have a lot of issues keeping and attracting A plus players is fundamentally they don't understand how A player turnover is actually part of what I call the compensation tax. So A player turnover is actually one of six patterns that falls into this umbrella series of the compensation tax. And the compensation tax is the overlooked compounding profit and time leaks that founders habitually do when they compensate for team dysfunction. There's actually team dysfunction in the paying of the compensation tax that drives the A player turnover and the inability to keep them. So this clips breaks down exactly how this works in the context of the compensation tax. So let's check it out and we'll take it from there. Okay. Moving on to the last time leak, which is A player turnover. So when I said at the beginning that like a-hole bosses and leaders and founders generally don't pay the compensation tax, the reason for that isn't because being an a-hole is like the right thing to do. It is because the way that they go about being an a-hole, that's the part that creates the distrust and the tension. But what they're actually really good at is just saying no. Like generally people that are a-holes just say no to a lot of things. They say it in terrible ways. They say it at the expense of other people, but like they're just like, this is the way that it is. This is what I want. I say no to everything else. Okay. So that's what a-holes do. Founders that say no properly also understand that company culture is created by what you say no to. Okay. So it's not, yes, these are our values, and yes, this is how we implement them. That is part of it. But what actually makes that stick is we say no to things that are outside of those values. That's the hard part, right? Have you ever heard that sentiment of like, they're not principles if they don't cost you anything? If they don't cost you anything, they're just opinions. Like I think I have an opinion that companies should be run this way. Well, if when the time comes and like you got to pay the price for that now, it's like, okay, well, that's the actual principle that's at play. So what you say no to matters more than what you say yes to. Okay. And most of the time, founders that pay the compensation tax say yes when internally they tend to mean no. When an underperformer underperforms, instead of saying no, that's not appropriate, they just stay quiet, make an excuse, buffer it, compensate it, whatever, right? They're saying an inherent yes to it. Okay. So everything you should have said no to becomes the standard of what you're willing to tolerate. So basically, what sets the standards is what you tolerate. It's not what you actually want or aspire to. Again, what you tolerate becomes your actual company culture. Now, why is this relevant as far as your A players are concerned? Because when you justify the C players' underperformance, or you get stuck in a firing freeze, like what we talked about in the profit leaks, your A players are watching. And what they're watching for is, okay, well, what are you not saying no to? What are you enabling? What are you compensating for? What are you acquiescing to? Okay. That is when the resentment starts building because all they see is low performance, low standards being said yes to. So like, why am I even trying? What is the point of all of this? Okay. They're never going to say it out loud. They're never going to like call you out on it, right? This happens generally under the radar. So these are second order consequences of the silence, of the hesitation, essentially of the compensation, which is your top performers end up quitting, which then creates an environment where you're now reliant on the B and C players, right? Which then perpetuates all of the fires because there's more of them now. So that means you have to compensate more. And now, right, we get into the compounding cycle of the compensation tax. Okay, so This time leak, while it looks like it's about the A player, it's actually about the compensation. Okay. And when you tolerate a broken culture, you actually drive the best people away because they want high standards, they want autonomy, and they want consistency in hard decisions and hard no's for that. That's actually what makes them A players. Okay. And now, in addition to just having to put out more fires, right? We all know how hard it is to like hire people. So, right, you're screening for resumes, you're interviewing, you're doing all of the things that you shouldn't be doing if you just uphold and upheld the standards in the first place, right? And now we get back into the analogy of the hamster wheel keeps turning, forcing more compensation tax, lost hours, lost talent, compounding in that growth ceiling that you cannot seem to break away through. And what's the other indicator, right? Recurring problems. All that's left over is your B and C players. You're going to have recurring problems guaranteed because there's less A players to compensate them for, right? So recurring problems, growth ceiling, those two go hand in hand. That was the clip from the full 38-minute compensation tax video that obviously went into the A player turnover. So if this material resonated with you, I can guarantee you one of the other 5 patterns that make up the compensation tax is going to be very relevant for you. So if you want that full 3-minute video, just check out the link below. It goes into the breakdown of all of the 6 patterns. Otherwise, like, subscribe, and watch for more content on how to get the most peace of mind, productivity, and delegation out of your business and leadership.